They were and she couldn't afford it. She couldn't keep it on her life. So eventually she had to close the door. I'm going to read something. This is the news that George and I were privy to through the news wires that we subscribe to. Do you understand how an option arm, I don't know how many people here in the mortgage industry, do you understand how option arm works? Right? I'm sure you do. Down here, I'm sure you do. But I'm going to just humor me for a minute. A 66-year-old Minneapolis house painter has a payment option adjustable rate mortgage. It allows him to write a check for $565 a month, even though he owes $1,300 a month. The difference is added to the mortgage balance, and when his total debt reaches $212,000, or after 5 years has passed, he said his monthly minimum could jump to $2,800 a month, which he can't afford. Now, here's the first problem. If somebody comes to you and says, look, I'm going to give you a mortgage, but I'm going to give you 100% financing. Don't give me any money down. And by the way, I'm going to let you have that money for 4%. Right? And if you can't afford the payment, stop right there. Right? You're not giving me money. I'm giving you 4% money. And I'm actually saying if you can't afford the payment, what the hell are you doing with the mortgage? Can I ask you that? Right? Does that make sense? So what are you doing with the mortgage? But if you can't afford the payment, you're going to push it to the back. We're going to add it to the equity in your home. Because, why? Home values never go down. They never do. They always go up. I'm the bank. Do you know how that started? Do you have any idea how that concept came into play? Because of what I was talking about earlier. Citibank, Smith Barney, Travelers Insurance. When Glass-Steagall went away, right?
And Bernie Franks.
And yeah, well, I'm not sure he was the cause, but I'll share with you.
Okay.
I'm sure he was part of the problem. But the issue is.
And Obama behind.
Let's keep that one. I'm staying away from that. But let's deal with the issue. The issue is that I am now a securities company that has access to depositor dollars, right? And guess what? I get to get creative. I'm a bank that takes in deposits from all of you, and typically my line of business was just straight mortgages. But now I have a securities company that's part of my business. Guess what we do? We get to get creative. We're going to bundle those assets, securitize them, and sell them off, and make huge profits. And they did for a couple of years. Look, I'm not even going to bore you with some more of the news that was coming across. But February of 2007 was when it started for us. By March of 2008, we knew there was issues, and we were scaled back to very little equity exposure and a lot of safety, growth, and income in our clients' portfolio. I'm gonna share something with you. 60 Minutes did a couple of clips, and some of you may have seen it. It's about a total of about an hour and 20 minutes of video. What I did is I condensed it to about 10 minutes because I don't want to bore you. But I think they do a great job of explaining what really has happened and what we see from our side. And before I show it, I'm going to share with you a little data. Goldman Sachs had a market cap of about $100 billion at the peak. Even today, it's about 35 billion. Bank of America was $240 billion market cap. About 31 billion. Citigroup was $255 billion market cap, 19 billion. Now, you know what the kicker there is? How in the world can you have a $19 billion market cap when you just took $45 billion of TARP money? Where the hell does that come in? How is that possible? How did you evaporate through $255 billion and now take over $45 billion of our money and still have a market cap of $19 billion? Wow. The government's backstopping it, but you know what we're all afraid of? And today, if you watch CNBC, nationalization. They're trying to turn debt into common shareholders. So there's some definite issues in the system. Let me share this video with you, and I'll ask you some questions at the end. By the way, we have some speakers up here, so you might let me know if it's a little uncomfortable and make sure everybody can listen.
On Friday, Congress finally passed and President Bush signed into law a financial rescue package in which the taxpayers will buy up Wall Street's bad investments. The numbers are staggering, but they don't begin to explain the greed and incompetence that created this mess. It began with a terrible bet that was magnified by reckless borrowing complex securities, and a vast, unregulated shadow market worth nearly $60 trillion that hid the risks until it was too late to do anything about them. And it's far from being over. It started out 16 months ago as a mortgage crisis. Then it slowly evolved into a credit crisis. Now it's something entirely different and much more serious. What kind of a crisis is it today?
This is a full-blown financial storm, and when it comes around, perhaps one every 50 or 100 years. This is the real thing.
Jim Grant is the editor of Grant's Interest Rate Observer and one of the country's foremost experts on credit markets. He says it didn't have to happen. But this disaster was created entirely by Wall Street itself during a time of relative prosperity. And they did it by placing a $1 trillion bet with mostly borrowed money that the riskiest mortgages in the country could be turned into gold-plated investments. If you look at how this started with the subprime crisis, it doesn't seem to be a good bet to put your money behind the idea that people with the lowest income and the poorest credit ratings are going to be able to pay off their mortgages.
The idea that you could lend money to someone who couldn't pay it back is not an inherently attractive idea to the layman, right? However, it seemed to fly with people who are making $10 million a year.
With clients clamoring for safe investments with above-average return, the big Wall Street investment houses bought up millions of the least dependable mortgages, chopped them up into tiny bits and pieces, and repackaged them as exotic investment securities that hardly anyone could understand. But it didn't stop the rating agencies like Standard & Poor's and Moody's from certifying the dodgy
Okay. You know what?